Okay, so this is your meeting room, and normally when you are the first person to log in, there will be your video will be on. And so if I started my video, you see me, hello, hi, I look like this, so I'm going to shut it down. Anyway, so this is the information for the personal meeting room that if you wanted to invite others, most likely you will put your Zoom link, the invite link here in your Schoology or email it out or in your Google Classroom, and you simply do that by copying link and then going to whatever service and pasting it in. I wanted to briefly go over a couple of the features down at the bottom so that you could see kind of how to navigate this. First and foremost, you have the mute button down here on the bottom. Simply put, there's a lot of information. You want to test your speaker and microphone before you start, but if you want to mute your mic, it's as simple as clicking the mute button. Notice the red line through it. That means that you are muted and you can't speak at this point. You can just click on the unmute button and you have the capabilities to speak. Start video, that starts and stops video. Security is a new feature that they added down at the bottom. So if you click it, essentially there are a variety of elements that you could push to ensure that your meeting, your Zoom meeting, is more secure. If you wanted to, once all your students were in the Zoom meeting, if you wanted to lock the meeting, you could go ahead and do that. And that means nobody else can join. You don't want to lock it until everybody is in, or else they'll be locked out. Pre-meeting settings, you will enable the waiting room. If it's not enabled in your pre-meeting settings, you want to make sure that you click that. What it's going to do is when students ask you to join, they will be put in a waiting room that they will, they'll hold there until you give them the admittance to the actual meeting. So that keeps it from anybody who's not, who you don't want in the meeting coming in. Share screen. So this is about participants. This isn't about you. So this will be about your students. If you want to allow your participants to share their screen, you can go ahead and click this. Now, what that means is at any point in time, they can go ahead and push the share screen button and they can go ahead and share their screen. I'd encourage you not to have that pushed or lit up or enabled right at the beginning. You want to wait until there's actually a moment when you would like to have somebody share a screen. Chat, I'll show you the chat feature, but a chat feature is great because it allows students to ask questions while you're speaking. You can monitor it or even have students be chat monitors and answer those questions as you type. If this was checked, the students would be able to rename themselves. One of the rules I'm going to implement is that they have to give their full name and no nicknames. If you let them rename themselves, then they're going to be switching names the whole time. And then unmute themselves. So this is checked. If I mute everyone, which I'll show you how to do in a second, then they'll have the ability to unmute themselves. If you need everybody quiet for a little bit, you can unclick that. And now if you mute them, they cannot unmute themselves. So you need to consider when that would be used. Remove participant, if you click there, that will allow you to get rid of some participants and push them into either the waiting room or keep them from joining at all. And if there's issues, you can report. The next piece here is the participants tab. So if you click the little arrow, you can invite people directly via email or putting their names in if you have them in your contact list. But if you click the participants logo here, you'll notice that this comes up over on the side. All right. Now you could see me, I'm the host, and I can mute myself here or unmute myself. I can turn on cameras, edit my profile picture, all that stuff. So I'm the only one in the meeting right now. Notice up here in the waiting room, I added another account. This would be potentially the student would be hanging out waiting to be admitted. So you can add them there. It'll show that they're joining and they'll get a notification. Notice that little, I don't know if you were able to hear the ding dong, but you can enable it to where a ding dong shows so that you know when somebody's coming in and when somebody's not. Now, if a student doesn't have their video on, you could do a direct ask to start video and push it through. If you wanted to add someone to be a host, you can make them a host. If you needed to put a participant in the waiting room, you could. So if they're being disruptive or they need to take a step out because you guys as a class are playing a little game, you can push them to the waiting room and then bring them back in if you'd like. And then remove them completely, which means that you'll take them out. And if you have enabled in the settings that they can't rejoin, then that will leave them out, and then you can report the account. So that is the basic of the participants. All participants at the bottom, if this is checked in the settings, it allows them to give you nonverbal cues using these icons. So if you ask a question and you're curious, the participant could push yes, and that would allow them to say, yes, I understand. Now you notice up at the top there next to that name as a participant, the little green checkbox. So if I had a whole class in here, I could look down and see, oh, they said yes, or maybe they say no. Notice the little X that comes up. If a student has a question, they can push raise hand and a little hand will pop up. The hand shows you, if you're watching them and you're watching the participant group, you can say, oh, they have a question. If they need you to go slower, you'll see this icon here. If they want you to go faster, you could see that icon there. And then there's a bunch of other icons that they could use. So there's a thumbs up, a thumbs down. You have like a applause, coffee, which is I need a break. And then if they have to go to the bathroom or something, you could push away. So those look like this. See a little coffee cup, gave you the clap. You also have the potential to clear everybody out. So by pushing clear all, if you asked a question and they all responded with yes, no, you can clear all for the next question. You have the capabilities to mute everybody. So all participants can be muted. And once again, if in your security, they're not allowed, you uncheck that box, they cannot unmute themselves. You would have to do it for them. You also can, this applies to all participants. So instead of doing security here, if you just want to quickly say, yeah, okay, everybody can, you know, if you want to ask everybody to unmute or you want to mute them upon entry, you could do that globally. So that's the participants tab. The next tab we have is chat. So this is the chat tab. You could say, hi, everyone, welcome to my Zoom, right? And then you push enter. And every single student who's looking at their chat would have the ability to see what a little box will pop up or a little icon will pop up, and they'll be able to see that. Now, as a teacher, I can talk to everybody in the meeting, but you can also enable it to where they can't talk to each other. So they can respond back, hi, Mrs. Moore, glad to be here. And notice the participants responded. So if they had questions or you wanted them to discuss something, it could happen here on the back chat. You can enable for them to share files or for you to, so that they can go in and they can select, you could select a file from your drive or from your computer that you wanted to share with them that they could then click on and have access to. And then participant can chat with no one, host only, or everyone publicly. This is one of those things that you need to gauge. If you want them to be able to chat with everyone, then keep this ticked. If you want them only to be able to talk to you, you could say host only. And if you want them to talk to no one, it turns off their chat completely and it will say chat disabled on their screen. So that's the chat feature. Share screen. Before I get there, I want to go over these other ones. So record, I would encourage you to record the session. What it does is it records whatever went on in the Zoom main room. And then you could ultimately share that recording for individuals who were absent. Closed captioning, it's a little tricky because you have to have a third-party group who allows closed captioning to work. So it's most likely that you're not going to use that. And then breakout rooms. So if you have, say this is 30 people and you want to automatically have them push out into breakout rooms, you could say, okay, I have 30 kids, say there was 30 here and you wanted to break them out into 5 rooms each. So that would give them a certain amount of rooms. That would give them 6 rooms that you would be able to jump between. And you could do that automatically or you could do it manually. So if I had 30 participants and I pushed manual, then I put create breakout rooms. That would allow me to go through really quick and assign in each of the breakout rooms exactly how many students or who specifically will be a part of that. So your options are move all participants into breakout rooms automatically. So we did manually, but if we did automatically, it would automatically disperse them. You wouldn't have to worry about that. This box checks allow participants to return to the main session at any time. Breakout rooms, this is kind of cool, this timer. If you want them to come back in, say, 4 minutes, you can set that, and it will notify yourself as well as the students that when it starts counting down, that they have a certain amount of time. So when it hits a 60-second mark, or you could change that to 30 seconds, and then it'll automatically bring them back to the main room if they don't return before then. So if you wanted to recreate all the rooms again, like at a second time throughout the session, you could just push recreate and it would recreate the rooms, and you could do automatically this time and put them in. And then if you were on a fly and you wanted to add a room, you could add as many as you want. So that's that. And then, so once you add the kids this way, and then once they're all populated, you put open all rooms. And the cool thing is so they're going to automatically say or ask to be joined into the breakout rooms. And I'll show you how to go into those in a second. But if you broadcast a message to all, say, hey guys, make sure you are on topic and discussing the question asked. You could broadcast them, and then everybody in the breakout room will see that automatically. It'll pop up on their screen. If you want to join any of the breakout rooms, you would just click join, you say yes. So you leave your main room and it takes you into a separate breakout room. Notice it's myself, and if S'more was in there, she would be in that breakout room as well. And here she comes. So there I am, right? So if you wanted to bring them back before the time limit was up, you could just close all rooms. I would encourage you, it gives you 20 and 30 seconds. I would encourage you to do a broadcast message first so that they know that they're closing down, and then you return to the main session. Now, the unfortunate thing is you can't record all of the breakout rooms at the same time. You could only record the main room. So you have to be mindful of that, but it is a really cool feature. Finally, it's screen sharing. So screen sharing means that I am going to be able to show the students my screen. Now, showing them your screen is useful. Say you're going to walk them through like a PowerPoint, or you're going to use a Jamboard, a collaborative Jamboard, and you want to kind of see, give directions before they all break out into them. Or if you just want to broadcast anything and like show them a website collectively, you can do that. So to share your screen, once again, you have one participant can share at a time. You don't want everybody sharing at the same time necessarily, so make sure that's checked. And then there are advanced sharing options you can check into. But to share a screen, you click share screen, and there are some options. Now notice I have desktop 1 and desktop 2. So my desktop 1 is I have 2 monitors. So I use the monitor over here. For me, if I was sharing, my screen, I find it useful to have 2 monitors because I could keep the kids on one monitor, like the videos, and I could share the other monitor and be able to see the kids still while I share. If you only have 1 monitor, it's okay. You would just only be able to see the kids on the 1 monitor plus sharing, and it gets a little tricky. So you have their desktops, if you have those. There's also a whiteboard capability. So the whiteboard is if you click it, essentially you could push share, and it gives you an option for a whiteboard. You can write on the screen. So I'm going to draw. Usually you have like a pad that you're drawing on, a document or a website or something. So for example, I'm on this screen. So I can put hearts all over my screen. And if I had like a website up, I could like circle the website. If I was going to draw, I could draw all over it. If I wanted to write text, I could do that. Hi, welcome. or if I was labeling something, and you could clear the whole screen. You can use a arrow. So if you wanted to push an arrow out with your name because you wanted to highlight specific sections, you could do that. If you wanted to, there's a bunch of different stamps, like X marks the spot, right? If you wanted to, use your mouse or whatever to highlight areas, you could. So there's lots of options, and you can save the screen share and the whiteboard as it is. Another option is you can just show your desktop, and while you're showing your desktop, essentially, you can give them a document, you could work through it, or if there's a PowerPoint you want them to look at, you could push that up there, and it'll show you, it'll, walk you through all of, like, you could do your PowerPoint presentation or whatever. So when you are sharing, you can unmute, start video. You could pause your share for a minute if you don't want to continue. You could do like if I wanted to give the remote control access to my screen from somebody else, you could do that. And then here is all the other features. So to stop sharing, you push this red box that says stop sharing, and it brings you back to the participant. So that's share screen. I think the two most important features are going to be the share screen and the breakout room. I encourage you to come up with some ideas. So if like a kid needs to use a restroom break, they can send that in. If they don't understand, you could send that in. It would slow you down. So there are options, and I'd be happy to go over them and show them how they work in real time. But that is Zoom in a nutshell.